The media consistently feminizes black men. There is a real push and movement to create a very feminine visual of black men. Feminine, feeble, goofy, not leader. That is the entire push for many brands, marketers, for media, movies. You can see it in all aspects of life. Even down to just basic commercials. If they have a chance to show a black man, he's either going to be gay or goofy. This is something that has to change. We need more marketers who are not going to continue to give in to showing black men as being these broken individuals, showing black men in dresses, showing black men always being weak and just feminine. That is not how black men are. And to continue to portray this visual that we only have black men who are basically wanting to polish their nails and want to get their hair done and want to be ultra feminine is incredibly problematic. It's incredibly problematic. So I'm very excited to see a movement of conservative marketers, especially conservative black marketers, who are ready to show a renewed and empowered visual of the black American family. Because showcasing this visual that black women are always loudmouth, always, saying things that are incredibly just problematic and creating division and, being just mean. That needs to go. Showing us always being hypersexualized. This hypersexualized visual that black women are consistently wanting to show their bodies and wanting to have the biggest butt and giant lips and just be these just hypersexualized, just provocative kind of gross individuals. That needs to go. It's time. It's time for just an entire new branding of the black American family and black men and women. So that is something I'm very excited to see for us, and I hope that we start to see much more of it now that we've kind of had a shift back to normalcy, because the way that things are spiraling out of control and people were being emboldened to showcase these visuals and they're getting grants and all these things if they show that, hey, look, it's all LGBTQ over here, and this is a makeup brand for women, but hey, we got dudes with mascara and eyeshadow on and all this stuff. It's like it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And just stop. You want to make a makeup brand for dudes, go put it in the dudes out. Like, stop erasing women from women-based brands and women marketing. It's for women. Stop putting men in women's stuff, because you don't see women in men's stuff. You don't see these same marketing agencies putting a bunch of women in men's stuff. You hardly ever see that happen. But dudes are always getting into women's marketing campaigns and women's brands and all of that. It's time for something new.
Oh yeah, the Lord's gonna bring something new, alright? He's gonna bring the new covenant when, he comes back on his second return and puts us in those spiritual bodies where we can never go off. That's going to be something new. I'd like to say, calling Vla Yahweh Bashim Yashab Bashim Kakdash, Tabanos to the Prophet of Great Muslim Prestation, Hope for Elect Shalom. And just doing a little response to this video from, the brother Arrow's Indignation. He brought it out. Brings out some great clips that gives brothers inspiration to do videos on certain particular topics, and in this sense, this is a Eve. Seems like she's somewhat sincere, because she's going into the topic about how the media is feminizing black men and how the media tries to make the so-called black woman more belligerent and more masculine, and she's pretty much speaking against that. And at this point, any woman that speak against what the government is trying to push in the so-called Black, Hispanic, Native American communities, and just in general, because even Esau pushes that amongst his own people too, and amongst the other nations. That's why this country Babylon is called the mother of harlots, the multitude of whoredom, because it just pushes a whole bunch of false philosophies, pushes the feminism. So the fact that this so-called black woman is actually speaking against what the government is doing, she would be deemed as a real wise woman in a sense, because a lot of dumb women don't really notice that, because they think it's good. They feel like it's empowering for a woman to be belligerent and masculine while a man is effeminate and soft and lets a woman walk all over him. That's just pretty much outside of a man's nature, and it's completely outside a woman's nature for her to be masculine, because there's just so much confusion with that. And the new thing that's gonna happen is, of course, before the Lord brings his righteousness and his his second coming, before for his elect to be redeemed, he's going to bring about Jacob's trouble, which is going to be the campaign for him pushing his law, statute, commandments to preserving his elect in that time. You know what I mean? Because Jacob's trouble is going to be a whole bunch of catastrophes and all type of events happening to where masses of people are going to be dying, and the only ones who's going to be remaining alive is those that actually try to their best to please the Heavenly Father, which is going to be the elect. And you see, in the kingdom, of course, none of those things is going to be going on, where you're going to have men being emasculated, being stripped of their masculinity and to be feminized, and having women to be completely masculine and being belligerent, thinking that they can have a voice. That shit's going to be completely done away with. And on this side, Isaiah 4:1 will definitely happen. So women are going to be straightened out on this side, even before the kingdom. Because in the kingdom, everything's going to be perfectly established. So we haven't even came into that time period where women are, receiving their judgment and being forced to be humbled. We haven't even been there yet. So yeah, but don't worry, that time is soon gonna come. But I'm gonna bring out, let me see, let me go into the Genesis, the 49th chapter, verse 9. This is going into, the nation of our people, starting with the so-called black men, even the Hispanic and Native American man as well. This also applies to. It says, verse 9 in Genesis chapter 49, it says, Judah is a lion's whelp from the prey. My son, thou art gone up. He stooped down. He couched as a lion and as an old lion. Who shall rouse him up? Right? And how did Judah stoop down? The head tribe, and as well as, the whole nation Israel. How did our nation stoop down? We have stooped down, through feminism, following after the ways of the so-called white man, with the whole integration that Martin Luther King, pushed on our people. That's why he made that quote that he led us into a burner house. He led his people into a burner house after he tried to integrate so-called blacks into the ways of the so-called white man. And that right there created so much issues. And from there on, you had it to where our people started becoming more degenerate than ever, and it further caused the degeneracy to, pretty much rise amongst our people. And being couched as a lion, even as an old lion, going into how Esau has weakened, the male's masculinity to the point where you have a lot of feminine ass men, otherwise known as bitch ass niggas, amongst our nation. Even with the so-called black men and Hispanic Native American men, you don't have like a lot of men amongst our nation that can handle being talked to a certain type of way, because Esau has socially engineered and even went as far as genetically engineering our people to become, the bug outs that they are today. And Jake is like, you got to be careful how you talk to these niggas, because sometimes they might be so effeminate they will think about unaliving you, or because you try to give them advice and you was maybe a little too harsh on the facts, and that you pretty much pointed out certain insecurities that they didn't want to hear. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing about Jake. You don't have a lot of men that think on a level where, that they're supposed to be thinking logically. You have a lot of men that think like a woman, that act erratic and use irrational thinking, and they just move on impulse, and that's a typical nigga for you. And that's because they don't have a father figure in the household. And even if they had a father, sometimes you best believe that father, ultimately didn't have a father in their life, and for the most part, a lot of times, don't get me wrong, the reason why a lot of fathers usually leave sometimes because of a woman. How they say two bulls can't live in the same pen, and these women think to themselves that because they got the government and they got like the welfare system and all this shit, they got the police and all this nonsense, they think they don't need a man, and you see, that's what causes them to compete and feel as though because they don't need a man anymore, they don't have to live under the jurisdiction of their male counterpart. So what they do is that they want to rely on the government and then call all the shots in their household and make all the decisions there. And usually if a man wants to dwell in a woman's household, to some degree, he can't be fully masculine to a point where she's gonna be like completely in fear of going off with him and actually respecting him and making sure that she don't ever cross that line. These bitches, they will cross lines, you best believe that. And to some degree, you gotta put your foot down and show your teeth, but at the same time, it's like you gotta hit them with that roller coaster effect, try to bring out your your anger and your strictness, but sometimes you gotta just chill and kind of like apologize and be a little soft in here and there, because you gotta just know how to deal with them psychologically. We can't be as fully masculine as possible, because sometimes when it's coming to these women, they're very emotional, so they will do something completely out of anger. And that's the same thing with these niggas too, because they, in the spirit of the so-called black mother, the so-called black woman, a lot of these are niggas amongst our people, and because they're in the spirit of their mama, a lot of times they're gonna be having those feminine emotions, and then right there and then you're gonna have niggas acting like queen divas and shit, and then before you know it, they're gonna be doing some crazy shit and letting the anger get the best of them. And of course, it says, who shall rouse them up? And of course, the Most High gonna eventually put the spirit back in our people to, mainly the so-called black, man, Hispanic, Native American man to rise up, And at this point, when Jake rises up, you best believe they're gonna lay hands on a lot of you so-called black women and Hispanic, Native American women too, because y'all not exempt either. You other tribes of women that have taken a part of this feminism. A lot of the nation of our men are gonna rise up against y'all and really lay hands on you, for abusing the nation of your men by using the system against them. You know, yeah, and you're a woman, y'all gonna pay for that. And you're gonna pay dearly. And in Psalm chapter 10, we'll start with verse 8. It says, "He sitteth in the lurker places of the villages, in the secret places doth he murder the innocent. His eyes are privily set against the poor." And who's the poor in a sense? This is the nation of Israel, so-called blacks, Hispanic Americans. We already considered the poor. And Esau, is the he that sitteth in the lurking places of the villages, and then even in the secret places he murders the innocent. And when you apply this to the upper elites, they may not be out there like actually fully doing the wickedness, but they out there like targeting, having things set up to target our people to pretty much do some damage to our people mentally. Like they having it to where there's propaganda about our people, making our people lives a lot harder, making it harder for Jake to even get a job sometimes, making it hard for them to get certain opportunities. They got this whole system set up against Jake, and that's how they have their eyes privily set against the poor. These are systems that were meant to cater for women, and it was ultimately meant to separate the family and break the family unit, especially the ACS as well. So like, let's say even if the mother happens to get welfare and happens to try to think she could do it on her own and thinking that she could do bad all by herself, that's when ACS, if they find that she over here not doing the right duties as a parent, like making sure that she's not making sure that these kids are going to school, that she's looking after the kids, and making sure that they eat well and things of that nature, then eventually she's just going to get those kids taken from her for the most part. And usually the ACS system, they separate the whole family from there, separate all the kids, and pretty much have them in all different homes. And it's a business because they don't really care. They're just caring about the money that's involved in it. And it says, verse 9, "He lieth in wait secretly as a lion in his den. He lieth in wait to catch the poor. He doth catch the poor when he draweth him into his net." Exactly, and that's the trap right there. Because Esau, he's the one that pushes for the feminism and all this shit. And you break up the families just to eventually work on taking the kids away and having them owned by the state. So now the father's out the house. His offsprings are set against him by the mother. And the mother, of course, is going to brainwash them from a young age and groom them to being against the father. And the father trying his best to try to get the kids back and all this nonsense. And sometimes he understands it's a lose-lose situation because the courts are always going to be in the bitch's favor. So, he's not going to even want to bother with that shit. And at that point, he's going to be eventually devastated, and he may even just give up from that matter, just for the fact that she pretty much has an upper hand, because of this society that pushes for iconocracy. So scriptures even said that we're not ignorant of Satan's devices, and that's of course one of his devices, to separate the family unit and make them, let's say, go against each other, to where now even the kids are pretty much against the parents too. And that's another reason why they created the school system as well and made it co-ed, where they have boys and girls in the school system, and they have them a lot of institutions where it's just like, boys and girls, in the same school. And that creates room for adultery and things of that nature. And then all type of debauchery, goes on from there. I don't want to get into, because just keeping this lesson straight to the point. And verse 10 says, he croucheth and humbleth himself, that the poor may fall by a strong one. He hath said in his heart, Yahweh hath forgotten. He hideth his face, he will never see it. That's what Esau thinks. He thinks he's gonna get away with all this shit, but little does he know the Most High, the scriptures say he required that which is past. So whatever wickedness you Edomites do, you're just gonna get, the judgment, twice as much. Let me bring out this one. It says Isaiah 3:12. It says, as for my people, children are their oppressors, a woman rule over them. O my people, they which lead thee cause thee to err, and destroy the way of thy paths. Right? And the way my people, err is because they, following after the ways of the so-called white man. And then at the same time, you got it to where, our women rule over us with the feminism, and then that doesn't make a man feel masculine. That makes him feel more feminine. That makes him feel weak. So these women have an upper hand in this society, and it just sucks from there. Let me bring out this other precept too from Isaiah 45 verse 9. It says, woe unto him that striveth with his maker, let the potsherds strive with the potsherds of the earth. Shall the clay say to him that fashioned, what makest thou with thy work? Ye have no hands. And when it comes to Esau, when it's his ways of trying to deceive the whole world, trying to make sure that everybody understands, that the way he changes things, he turns the Heavenly Father's ways, he tries to do away with it to make it seem like it's old and boring, and to make it seem like the new way of doing things is the best, which is not. Because you see, one thing about all the wickedness is that people that do wickedness, they're always trying to find the next trend. They're always in a search for doing something better. You know what I mean? And that's the thing when it's coming to people on this side, in this earth, that when you are in the world, that's all you have looking forward to, just new trends to follow, always something new. There's always a new wave, certain waves die out. It's just a whole plethora of just shit that people do, and then they don't have a sound, stable mind, being invested in this world. And seeing that Esau will even go as far as making the LGBTQ community, famous, especially when Jake is in that community. Esau will give them more benefits and all that shit. It's really effed up to see that how he could have, Jake amongst that community and support it a lot more. And let me bring out Isaiah 29th chapter verse 16, because it's another way of how he strives against his maker, because he want to change everything that the Most High creates. So Isaiah 29 verse 16, it says, surely your turning of things upside down shall be esteemed as the potter's clay, for shall the work say of him that made it, he have made me not. He made me not. Or shall the thing framed say of him that framed it, he had no understanding. Right? And that's what Esau does when he changes certain ways and principles that the Most High have set up. Most High had a guideline, and Esau tries to have his twisted version of what the Most High has, because this nigga Esau wants to play, God on the left-hand side. He wants to act like he's he's the Most High. And and it's mainly because of Esau's influence. He's the reason why that he got the world under that vibration that the Most High might be wrong on certain things, because that's what Esau figures. Esau wants to try to change where he think the Most High went wrong, and the Most High doesn't go wrong. The Most High has everything under control. He said not one sparrow falls on the floor without his will. You know what I mean? He mentioned something along the lines of that in scripture, that a sparrow doesn't fall down on the floor without the Most High ordaining it. Exactly. It's not as small as a bird. And that's just a small example of how the Most High has everything under his will, everything operating under his control. And this is a beautiful precept that proves that, what that sister was saying in the video, that I pointed out and showed. She was basically talking about how the media has a certain way they present so-called black men and so-called black women, and then she sees it consistently, knowing that there's a twisted agenda behind trying to make the so-called black woman look and appear to be tougher than her men, when it should be the other way around. And this is part of the Willie Lynch syndrome that they're pushing on our people, because when you read that Willie Lynch letter, they wanted reverse roles to be pretty much taught and enforced upon the so-called black community. And they mentioned that during slavery, that letter. So how much more now that these things are just playing out, let me see, in Proverbs chapter 12 verse 26, it says, the righteous is more excellent than his neighbor, but the way of the wicked seduceth them. Right? And you see Esau's ways seduced on the nation of our people. Pretty much reduces Jake's ways. And the ways of Esau, is pretty much adultery, debauchery, sexual immorality, even bestiality, pretty much like there's a whole bunch of shit that you see niggas do. Esau pretty much does that, but the thing about Jake is on a smaller level. When Jake do their wickedness, they do it better than Esau. And of course, the Edomites that could do it on a grand level is the banking family members of the elites, So yeah. Another thing that we gotta understand in that video too is that not really only in advertisements and certain marketing campaigns that they pushing for a weak so-called black man and a weak so-called and a strong so-called black woman, to where she figures that she's more masculine than him because she could act more aggressive, and you see, the thing is that when it's coming to the so-called black woman, she's being beguiled by the serpent, so she doesn't even understand the importance of her role and the importance of the role of a man, and how he's supposed to operate and how she's supposed to operate for him, to comfort him. You see, that's the thing. And when Esau calls that dysfunction and the chaos amongst our people, that's what keeps our people ultimately separated against each other. So yeah. And one more thing I'd like to point out before I close is that, if further proof showing that the earth is given to the hand of the wicked, if, that sister was complaining about how, the media misrepresents, so-called black people. And she needs to understand, of course, these are the curses, that's a part of the curses in Deuteronomy 28, Yeah. And another thing too, the curses is like where they try to also make sure when they do those, let's say, when they try to promote on TV a bad portrayal of so-called black, people, or even so-called Hispanic Native Americans as well. They try to show the ones that are ghetto from the hood, and things of that nature sometimes, especially when they're showing so-called black people. They usually like to do that. And it's really messed up that this is what, they really resort to doing. But the funny thing is, it's like, no matter what they do to us, and no matter how bad they try to portray us, our people will always be, the best in their talent and shit like that. But we still got a good name to us. But yeah, so with that, pretty much all we made, let's edify, let's give all glory praise honor to Adonai Yahweh, Hashem, Shalom, Yahweh, Hashem, Lakadash. The one of the apostles, great most, some peace, I teach it all for like Shalom.